Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. Maya stood behind the espresso machine at Café della Luna, the early morning bustle blurring around her. Steam hissed. Laughter echoed. Orders piled in. Medium soy latte for Claire, she called, placing the cup on the pickup counter. Her voice as calm as a mountain lake. Her apron was dusted in cinnamon. Her hands dry from hours of constant washing. It was her third shift this week, just one of 2 jobs she juggled. At night, she worked customer service for an airline from her cramped apartment, headset on, her daughter fast asleep beside her. Brad, her husband, was never home before midnight. Business school, he said. The startup was everything, he said. And she believed him. She believed in him with a kind of blind devotion that came from years of love, sacrifice, and shared dreams. When he walked into the cafe that afternoon, Maya lit up like a candle. He had that crooked smile, eyes full of schemes and promise. Brad always had big ideas, apps, platforms, disruptive innovations, whatever was trending in Silicon Valley. But this time he had something real. "This is it, May," he whispered across the counter. "The platform is almost ready. We just need a launch pad." "How much?" she asked, already knowing where this conversation was going. 50,000. She stiffened. "Brad, I know it's crazy. But this is it. I got 3 guys ready to code full-time. We just need to pay them. I'll pitch to investors next quarter. After that, we're talking millions." Maya glanced at the faded photo in her apron pocket. Her mother, smiling in front of the old house in Sacramento, the house she'd inherited but never dared to touch. She'd held on to it like a lifeline. Permanent, untouchable, till now. "I'll do it," she said, heart pounding. 6 weeks later, the house was gone. She signed the papers in silence, heart aching as her past was sold to finance their future. Brad launched the company out of their tiny apartment. Just 3 engineers, a pizza box, covered table, and whiteboards on every wall. Maya worked double shifts, brought them food, and proofread pitch decks between diaper changes and midnight calls with passengers yelling about missed flights. "You're amazing," Brad would whisper at 2 a.m., resting his head on her lap. "I couldn't do this without you." By the end of the year, the platform Claricon was live. It connected freelancers to short-term corporate gigs. A niche twist on the gig economy, but with a sleek interface and hyper-targeted AI matching. They caught a lucky break when a Fortune 100 company used it to source emergency consultants during a cybersecurity breach. Brad's name hit tech blogs. Investors called. Series of funding came in. Offices were leased. Staff was hired. But Maya, she was still taking orders at the cafe. Money changed things fast. Brad moved into a swanky office downtown, traded hoodies for tailored suits, and swapped pizza boxes for steakhouse lunches. He was busy, always busy. "Just until we scale," he said. "Then things will calm down." But Maya noticed the missed calls, the vague answers. The distance wasn't just emotional. He didn't come home for dinner anymore. Their daughter, Lily, barely saw her father. And Maya, she'd become a ghost in her own life. One night, she showed up at his office unannounced with Lily. Brad wasn't there. The receptionist smiled tightly. "Oh, he's in New York for a conference." Maya blinked. "New York?" "Yes. Didn't he tell you?" He hadn't. When he returned 3 days later, she didn't yell. She didn't accuse. She simply asked, "Are we still in this together?" His answer was a kiss on the forehead and a promise that everything will be fine. It wasn't. Maya first saw her on a live stream of Brad's panel at a tech summit. Kelsey Bloom, the PR lead for Claricon. Blonde, Polish, always laughing at Brad's jokes like they were private. The camera caught them walking off stage, close. "Too close?" she asked Brad that night. He laughed. "Kelsey, come on, Maya. You think I'd cheat on you?" "No," she whispered, ashamed. "I don't know. I just..." But she did know. And weeks later, when she opened the company's financials, an access link Brad forgot to revoke, She found 2 plane tickets to Milan charged to Claricon's expense account. Brad and Kelsey, first class. Her hands trembled. She didn't cry. She printed the receipts, emailed them to herself, and closed the tab. The official letter came on a Monday. Dissolution of marriage. Maya read the document 3 times before the words stopped swimming. Brad was divorcing her. No explanation. No apology. Just clean, sterile text declaring the end of 13 years. The next week, her name was removed from the company website. Then her access vanished. Emails. Logins. When she called Brad, he didn't pick up. When she finally cornered him in the parking garage of Claricon, he looked past her like she was a stranger. "You don't have any stake in the company," he said coolly. "I gave you everything," she said. "I mortgaged my mother's house." He shrugged. "There's no paper trail. No signed agreement. No equity. You were just helping your husband. Like a good wife." That was the moment something inside Maya broke. And something else took its place. She hired a lawyer. A quiet woman with steel in her voice and scars in her eyes. They spent hours reconstructing timelines, printing receipts, pulling phone logs, matching expense reports with flight manifests. "You don't have a prenup?" the lawyer asked. "No," Maya replied. "And you mortgaged your property to fund the company's seed?" "Yes." "Then we fight." Maya kept working, kept caring for Lily. But in the shadows she built her case. Not for revenge, though the idea burned like fire, but for justice. For closure. For every woman who gave too much and was left with nothing. The courtroom was packed. Brad wore a charcoal suit and a smug smile. Kelsey sat behind him, pretending not to smirk. Maya wore simple navy and pearls. She didn't need to sparkle. Her truth would do that. Brad's lawyer painted her as a supportive spouse, yes, but also as irrelevant to the business. "There's no documentation," he argued. "No shares. No titles." She worked a separate job. The company was Mr. Allen's vision alone. Maya sat silent. Until it was her turn. She stepped to the stand, cleared her throat, and looked at the jury. Then she began. Maya's voice was steady. Not loud, not dramatic, just clear. Every word she spoke carried the weight of years spent holding back. "I worked 2 jobs when Brad was in business school," she began. "I paid our rent, paid our childcare. I fed the team working in our apartment. I mortgaged my mother's house for $50,000 so he could pay his engineers and launch Claricon." Brad's lawyer objected immediately, citing hearsay and lack of documentation. Maya's lawyer stood with a calm smile and handed the judge a neatly organized folder. Inside were notarized bank transfer slips, mortgage documents, emails from Brad thanking Maya for saving the company, and even a dated note written by Brad himself, scrawled in the margin of a pitch deck. "Maya's risking everything. This has to work." The courtroom shifted. The judge adjusted his glasses. Brad leaned back slightly in his seat, and Kelsey stopped smirking. Maya continued. "I didn't ask for equity because I trusted him. I didn't take a title because I didn't need credit. I just wanted us to build something together. I believed in him." Her voice cracked on the last word, but she didn't let it falter. "What I didn't realize," she said, staring directly at Brad, "was that while I was cleaning our baby's bottles and patching our roof, he was building a future without me in it." More evidence came next. A full email chain between Brad and an early investor who'd expressed concerns about the lack of formal equity agreements. In it, Brad replied, "My wife helped, sure, but it's my company. Her name isn't anywhere officially. That's how I've kept it clean." The investor's reply was on screen now, projected for the court. "That could become a legal problem later. You should at least make sure she doesn't have a paper trail." The silence in the room was thick. Maya didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She just let the silence hang. The judge glanced at Brad, then at Maya. "You may proceed," he said to her lawyer. It wasn't just the receipts. It was the pattern. Expense reports placing Brad in New York with Kelsey during his alleged solo business trip. Duplicate invoices marked as consulting fees that were funneled through a dummy Elsie Kelsey owned. Hotel reservations for two, booked from Brad's corporate email. Kelsey was suddenly very interested in her nails. Then came the testimonies. A former Claricon engineer stepped up. He was one of the 3 original team members, long since bought out and relocated to Denver. "I remember Maya more than I remember Brad," he said, chuckling nervously. "She used to make us meals when we couldn't afford takeout. She helped test our UI mockups. She even found the bug that was crashing the app's onboarding page." Brad didn't know about that until after launch. Brad's lawyer interrupted. "Were you aware of any formal position she held in the company?" "No, sir," the engineer replied. "But if you're asking who did the work, Maya was there every day right alongside us." One by one, the narrative of the silent wife began to crumble. Then came a new witness. A woman named Jessica. She walked with a cane, had sharp gray eyes, and was introduced as Maya's former supervisor at the airline's customer service department. "She worked nights," Jessica said. "Exhausted but always composed. We didn't know she had a toddler at home until much later. But the real reason I'm here is to say that she helped thousands of passengers while launching a company behind the scenes." Jessica paused and looked straight at Brad. "And while someone else was flying first class on company money." Laughter. Swiftly silenced by the judge. But it landed. By the end of the week, Maya had painted a picture, not just of betrayal, but of raw labor. Emotional, financial, and intellectual investment. Brad's expression had gone from smug to sullen. He whispered constantly to his lawyer now. No more smirks. No more relaxed posture. The final blow of that week came not from a person, but from a spreadsheet. Maya's lawyer pulled it up with quiet triumph. A month-by-month breakdown of Claricon's burn rate during its first year, overlaid with Maya's pay stubs, transfers from her personal account, and itemized expenses. Color-coded. Labeled. "It is our assertion," the lawyer said, "that without these direct financial contributions from Mrs. Allen, Claricon would have defaulted within 3 months of launch." Maya sat still as the judge nodded slowly. "We're prepared to show projections that detail not only initial contributions but also how her involvement extended beyond launch, into strategic growth, early user acquisition, and marketing decisions based on household surveys she conducted." The opposing counsel looked like he might throw up. Brad leaned forward at last and whispered something to his attorney. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Allen, is there something you wish to say?" Brad stood up. I think we can settle this privately," he muttered. "No," Maya said firmly. "We're not settling anything. Not until the truth is on record." And so the trial continued. Every day, Maya sat with her back straight, her face calm, and her hands folded. Every day, more threads of Brad's story unraveled. Kelsey was forced to testify and claimed she had no knowledge of the duplicate invoices. But when asked about a luxury bracelet purchased on the company card, she froze. Maya's lawyer handed over photos, Kelsey wearing it on a yacht in Santorini, posted on her public Instagram. The bracelet glinting in the sun. "Do you recognize this bracelet?" "Yes." "Did Mr. Allen purchase it for you?" "Yes." "Using company funds?" Silence. "I don't know." The judge scribbled something on his notepad. Outside the courthouse, Maya was approached by reporters, but she didn't comment. Her lawyer spoke for her. "We believe in transparency, and we believe that when women are told they were nothing, the truth has a way of reminding the world just how much they actually were." Back in the courtroom, Brad looked smaller, paler, wetting. But Maya, she was growing. Not in height or volume, but in presence. She stood taller now, not because she won yet, but because she refused to be erased. On the final day of testimony, Brad tried to regain control. His lawyer called him to the stand. He leaned into the microphone and began to spin a new narrative, that Maya had insisted he build Claricon alone, that she didn't want credit, that she had agreed to stay out of the business side. "I loved her," he said, "but she didn't understand the tech world. She wasn't qualified. Maya looked up at that. Then, her lawyer approached him with one last question. Mr. Allen, who designed the original logo for Claricon? Brad blinked. I did. Are you sure? Yes. The lawyer pulled up a file from an old email account. It was a vector file, sent from Maya's personal account to Brad's, with the subject line, Final logo files. Adjusted the C-shape like you asked. Attached were multiple iterations of the logo, with timestamps from a year before Claricon's launch. Do you still want to maintain that she contributed nothing? Brad opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The tension in the courtroom was electric. Every seat was filled. Even the hallway was packed with people hoping to catch a glimpse through the glass doors. Reporters, former employees, curious legal interns, all drawn to the quiet spectacle of the woman who refused to disappear. Maya sat poised. Her lawyer glanced at her. Are you ready? She nodded once. They called her back to the stand. Not for cross-examination. Not for more financials. But for something else. A final statement. Mrs. Allen, the judge said. You may speak. She took a breath. Then another. And then she began. I've been called a lot of things during this trial. Supportive. Emotional. But not once did anyone call me strategic. She looked at Brad. I was never the loudest person in the room. I didn't need to be. Because I was always thinking 10 moves ahead. Murmurs rippled through the court. I knew something was wrong a long time ago. When Brad started pulling away. When he started making decisions without me. When I realized I was being written out of our story. She reached into a folder and held up a piece of paper. This is a copy of a document Brad and I signed, right after the platform launched. It's dated, notarized, and witnessed by one of the original engineers. It outlines a 49% ownership split in the company in the event of future valuation. Brad's lawyer objected instantly, citing failure to disclose. The judge raised his hand. We'll allow it. The document was passed to the bench. The judge read it slowly, his expression unreadable. Brad's face had gone completely pale. I asked him to sign it back when we were still us, Maya continued. I told him it was just for peace of mind, that I didn't plan to use it. And I didn't. He paused. Until now. The judge set the paper down. Is this your signature, Mr. Allen? Brad hesitated. I don't remember. We can verify through handwriting analysis, the judge said evenly. I suggest you don't lie under oath. Yes, Brad mumbled. It's mine. The room stirred again. Louder this time. A whisper rising into stunned gasps. Maya wasn't done. There's more, she said quietly. Another document was placed on the stand. A power of attorney form, dated just weeks before Claricon secured its Series A investment. He asked me to sign this when he was going out of town, she explained. Told me it was just in case something happened. I never used it. But it gave me legal access to all foundational contracts, IP filings, and early investor communications. She turned to the judge. We've already submitted those records to the court. The ownership documents, the cap table, the patent registrations, all of which include my name as co-developer, silent partner, and co-owner. They were amended early, then deleted from later filings. But the originals were preserved in a secure cloud account, automatically backed up under the original Claricon domain, which I had access to through the admin email. Brad stood up. You can't do this. That account was shut down. No, Maya said calmly. It was rerouted. When you locked me out of the new systems, I quietly redirected the backups to a private server. One you didn't know about. Brad's lawyer tried to speak, but his voice caught in his throat. The judge called for order. The gavel rang out twice, and then Maya dropped the final piece. We also discovered something else, her lawyer said. A second set of documents, ones we were prepared to file in a separate fraud case. He handed a packet to the judge. During the series of funding round, Mr. Allen claimed to be the sole founder. He omitted Mrs. Allen's contributions, despite financial records, emails, and signed agreements proving otherwise. That qualifies as willful misrepresentation to investors. Gasps again. You may want to consult a criminal attorney, the judge said quietly to Brad. For the first time, Brad didn't have a comeback. The judge recessed for an hour to review the new evidence. Outside the courtroom, reporters swarmed Maya. She said nothing, just held her daughter's hand as they stepped into the sunlight. When they returned, the verdict was swift. The court recognized Maya as a 49% co-owner of Claricon. She was awarded half the current valuation of the company, plus back pay for services rendered, reimbursement of her original investment, and legal fees. But that wasn't what left the courtroom speechless. It was what happened next. The judge allowed Maya a final statement before closing. She stood once more, looked out at the room and said, "I didn't do this to win. I did it to remind every woman who's ever been told she was nothing, that silence is not weakness. Sometimes it's strategy." She turned to Brad. "And I never needed to raise my voice to be heard. I just needed to wait for the right moment." Then she walked out, head high, daughter by her side. The courtroom didn't erupt. It didn't need to, because everyone there knew they just witnessed something unforgettable. A woman not just reclaiming her worth, but rewriting the ending. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story and tell us where you're watching from.